afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our weekly webinar brought to you by the ELT, the Emergency Leadership Team. I'm Ruth Jackson, Vice President for Academic Affairs, and I'm joined, as always, by the members of the Executive Policy Group, Mrs. Teresa Powell, Office of the President, Chief Mario Holland, LUPD, Dean Joshua Busby, Student Affairs, and Dean Joshua Snavely, School of Business. In today's webinar, we will begin, as we always do, by providing a COVID-19 status update. We'll also outline, once again, our student technology program. We'll walk through our expectations for remote instruction, provide a reminder of some upcoming important dates. We'll talk about our campus resident testing, and we'll end, as we always do, by reflecting on resilience. So at this time, I'll ask Chief Holland if he'll provide our COVID-19 update. Chief?
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. As of noon today, for the COVID-19 update, the total number of cases in the state of Oklahoma had a 1.3% weekly increase. The total number of active cases in the state of Oklahoma had a 28.9% weekly decrease. And the number of deaths in the state of Oklahoma had a 4% weekly increase. For Logan County, the total number of cases, or the total cases, was a 3.8% weekly increase. And for the active cases in Logan County, had a 0.7% weekly decrease. And for the number of cases there, for deaths, there were no weekly change. For Langston University, the total cases is 98. And the good news is we have 0 active cases for Langston University. And with that, now I will pass it to Dean Snavely.
Thanks, Chief. I do want to echo what great news that is to see the numbers trending in that direction. There's still a lot of reason to be cautious, but I think we've seen now at least 3 weeks in a row Oklahoma's case numbers on the right side of decrease. We know it continues to impact families, but we want to thank everyone in our community for that continued adherence to these protocols, because it's making a difference. And we're seeing that in the trends and in the health of our community. So very grateful for the progress we're seeing there. We wanted to provide it feels like we've been away from you for a little while with the weather that Oklahoma has been experiencing, and we hope that everyone is found safe and warm coming out of a very difficult couple of weeks. Right before Mother Nature got involved in our operations, we announced the launch of the Langston University Computer Access and Technology Initiative, or LUCAT for short. And you see on your screen here the details of that, which provides the opportunity for students at no fee cost rent 2 different types of laptops, one a sort of traditional notebook and another a 2-in-1 tablet PC, as well as a really great backpack from Dell Technologies. But then, as we all know, the freeze and the snow and those conditions delayed our rollout of that program. So we wanted to remind students of who's eligible, and then let you know that we'll be picking back up the pace of the program feverishly this week, and you'll be getting notices for students who've already applied today and tomorrow and throughout the week for the pickup of those devices. So again, all enrolled Langston students are eligible for the program, no matter the campus they are on, or if they're remote, as Dr. Jackson is going to talk more about, I believe, in a minute. The students who are in that remote designation, all sites of Langston University are eligible. And again, there's no fee associated with the program. A student who applies is accepted, which will be the case for anyone enrolled and on a Langston site. No fee associated with that. The only way that a student could be charged is if they don't enroll in the following semester or don't return the device. And in that case, if a student didn't return the device, they could be charged a penalty. So want to remind you of those steps for those who've slept a little bit since our last meeting or haven't reviewed that email. We've actually also added a QR code that students can use to follow the steps and complete the process. So again, first step, apply with this QR code or the link that was sent out via email. You'll receive a confirmation email then from either the emergency leadership team or ITS, Information Technology Services. You'll be sent a student agreement form to complete. So there's essentially two different form components to the program. One is the request. The second is the agreement, by which you make certain acknowledgements and agree to return the device at the appropriate time. Then schedule a time for pickup, or in the case of student who's over more than 100 miles from the campus, we will make shipping arrangements for those students. And then for those picking it up, you would pick it up and return it to Gandy Hall. So the first floor, there's a space there for pickup. So we're excited to get this program going again now that we're back to some normal weather, and know that it's an important component to our students' academic experience. We want to say we appreciate the students who've been patient as we have experienced this delay. We know that's frustrating. We're frustrated too. But just like, we made the decisions over the last couple weeks to keep everyone safe. We had to do the same for our technology teams, but they're back at it and ready to go, and we'll be getting these devices out to the students this week. So very excited and look forward to answer any questions about it and seeing the students begin to use those. With that, I'll turn it back to Dr. Jackson to talk more about those remote learners.
Thanks, Dean. So before the weather break, students who applied for 100% remote instruction were notified of their approval or denial by email. Students who were approved, the email included a copy to all instructors. So one of the first things that I want to highlight is that even though this approval was communicated to both students and their course instructors, it's the student's responsibility for continuing that communication with each instructor to make sure that he or she is clear on the expectations and how remote instruction will go this semester for them. 100% remote students are also responsible for adhering to all of the requirements and expectations that are outlined in the course syllabi, and these students are also responsible for having all of the materials that they need, whether it's textbooks, lab kits, technology requirements, including reliable Wi-Fi, and in some cases, if it's communicated by the course instructor ahead of time, testing, proctoring software. And in addition, our students have been told that if they are approved for 100% remote instruction in a course that was designated as a hybrid course, that their instructors would work to try to support this remote instruction. However, there would be some cases where the instruction or the way the course is assessed just may not translate to 100% remote instruction. Usually these are biology courses or other science courses, nursing courses, and the like. In these instances, if the instructor deems that he or she is unable to provide the kind of assessments or the kinds of objectives that must be mastered in the remote environment, the instructor will communicate with the students. And in some of those cases, if it's unable to be completed, the student may receive an I. But again, this will be communicated between the student and the instructor after they've explored all ways of providing the content necessary and providing the student an opportunity to demonstrate mastery of those objectives. In those rare events where an incomplete is given because of this, all of the university policies and timelines remain in effect. For instance, the university timeline is that an incomplete cannot extend beyond 1 calendar year. And so it's important that students remain up to speed on what these policies are and the requirements of such. Because of COVID-19, we've made some modifications that will likely impact all students. So in addition to students who are approved to attend 100% remotely, at some point, there will be times where students do not physically attend classes. So for flex classes, even with students who are attending in small rotating groups, it's important that all of our students remember that during class time, it's important that they attend or participate. Specifically, do not schedule outside events or activities such as medical appointments or jobs or anything else like that during scheduled class time. Whether you're in person or attending via Zoom, you're responsible for attending class as outlined by your instructor. The second good tip is to make sure that there is a designated workspace that's quiet, that's free of distractions, and available whenever that class time is. Related to distractions, make sure that you remind your roommates and your family members of when your classes are so that those distractions don't come as well. Just like in a physical class, it's important to stay engaged and be active in the class. And you can do this in a number of ways. If you have a question or if you want to add something to the conversation, if the instructor has enabled the chat, ask your questions there or use the raise hand feature of Zoom. But there are certain tips and strategies that you can use to make sure that you are remaining engaged in the course. As in all semesters, but certainly underscored this semester, it's important that you check D2L often. I would suggest at least 2 times a day. Throughout the day, instructors, as well as announcements from the university are posted on D2L. You can check your grades on D2L and just stay on top of any upcoming deadlines that you may have. And again, can't say it enough, communicate with your instructors. Depending on how the instructor has directed, email, remind, group me, any method that your instructors have outlined for you, please use it. And don't forget about office hours. Those are posted virtual as well as in some cases, a few face-to-face hours, but check your syllabi for those hours. They're there for a reason, and I know our instructors would be happy to visit with you, ask questions, answer questions, and provide clarification. So just a reminder, it feels like we've been Zooming forever. It's been a year in regular rotation for us now, but it's not too often to remind everyone of what we call Zoom etiquette, but certainly applies to Microsoft Teams and Adobe Connect and any other platform that you're using in your class. Again, make sure that your workspace is quiet and not full of distractions. Have an appropriate background. If you have privacy concerns or just want to do something different, you're encouraged to use a virtual background. There are Langston University branded backgrounds that you can find on our website, so be sure to check those out. Make sure that you check your Wi-Fi connections in advance of your classes, particularly if you have an assignment or a presentation to do. Make sure you check your audio and your video to make sure the feeds are not choppy. When you're setting up your webcam, make sure that it's facing your face and at eye level so that it can just give that person-to-person feel. Think about background noises and make sure that you're muting your microphone whenever you're not speaking. And doing this will help avoid some of those embarrassing mistakes that all of us have heard about, whether it's being caught on video or on microphone doing something that was not intended for the entire group. And so with that, I'll now talk about some of our upcoming dates from the registrar's office. There was messaging that went out this morning with this information, so check your email and continue to check your email for messages that come from our registrar. So our first 8-week session runs through March 17th. The deadline has passed to add or withdraw for 100% refund, but the last day to drop or withdraw with no refund is next week, March 3rd. For our courses that run the entire 16 weeks, the last day to drop or withdraw with a full refund was February 3rd, but the last day to drop or withdraw without a refund is April 16th. And that is also the deadline to drop or withdraw those of you who are enrolling in second 8-week courses, which will begin March 22nd. And the deadline is there if you need to add or drop a second 8-week course that you're already enrolled in. That's March 26th. There's a note that was included in the message from the registrar's office. Because of our inclement weather and the resulting closure last week, the deadline to have the administrative withdrawal, or our AW, for the first 8-week course session has been extended to this Wednesday, February 24th. Again, the deadline for AWs for the first 8-week session is this Wednesday, day after tomorrow, February 24th. Okay. And so with that, I'll pass it along to Mrs. Powell. Mrs. Powell.
Thanks, Dr. Jackson, and good afternoon, everyone. Wanted to share a little more on the ongoing testing opportunities that we're offering for our university community. We are offering complimentary testing for all employees this week on the Langston campus, and we're planning to offer complimentary testing on our urban campuses next week. So this week, for those of us on the Langston campus, you can take advantage of complimentary testing in the multi today, tomorrow, and Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will have testing available. If you're an employee, you do not need an appointment to take advantage of this testing, so you can stop by the multi. It's about 15 minutes for your results, and most individuals are waiting a total of approximately 20-30 minutes depending on the wait. We've been able to minimize the wait for most of the testing that we are conducting in the multi, so it's usually a very quick process. Just a note for our employees who take advantage of this testing opportunity, we are going to be conducting testing for some of our specialized student populations on the same days as our employee testing. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week, you may see some student populations, namely student athletes or members of the band. We will be inviting them to have their testing conducted over these 3 days on the Langston campus. So don't be alarmed if you see them there. They are being tested by invitation of the ELT to ensure that they are prepared for upcoming commitments. So again, if you stop by the multi and you see students, that is not congruent with the required testing that Dean Busby will be sharing more about. So with that, I'll ask Dean Busby to explain more about the required testing for on-campus residents that will occur this week. Dean Busby?
Good afternoon, everybody. To our students that are currently residing in campus housing, of course, our process was laid out really around the middle of the fall semester that required for students who wanted to reside in campus housing to prior to them returning to campus would have to submit a pre-arrival test. Once they arrived on campus to move in, they would have to take an arrival test. And within 2 weeks or so of them moving in, they would have to take a post-arrival test. We absolutely want to thank and acknowledge all of our students for following through on that. We're very responsive to the process and the protocols that were put in place. And we thank those students. Now we're going into our next round of required testing. And so we're going to be offering that this Thursday and Friday between the hours of 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. in the multi, as Mrs. Powell alluded to our students that are on. That information was sent out via email earlier this morning, along with the link to the Calendly system where a student will be able to select their appointment. So the appointments are within 15-minute increments. And so we will essentially take the last appointments at 6:45 p.m. on both of those days. So from 11 a.m. to essentially 6:45 p.m. every 15 minutes, a student will be able to make an appointment to where they will come in and get their tests. And so again, this is part of the institution's multi-layered approach to testing during the spring 2021 semester. And so this is designed to isolate, to contain, and to mitigate the risk and the spread of COVID-19 on our campus. And so we've done a yeoman's job, and we want to thank our campus community, our faculty, our staff, and our students for following our Protect the Pride plan as well. And so this is the next phase of campus testing for our students that are currently residing in campus housing. So I'll turn it back over to Dr. Jackson I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Jackson to facilitate the discussion. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Dean. So we'll pause and answer any questions that you may have. If you have any, please feel free to drop them in the chat or post them in our question and answer feature. So we do have one question. Mrs. Powell, would you take this one? The question is, any update on commencement, or will the deadline for a zero balance be extended?
Sure, thanks, Dr. Jackson. So as far as the commencement update, I cannot share anything at this time, although the committee is convening and there have been discussions on what commencement might look like. So stay tuned for that. I expect that we will have updates on that very soon. The zero balance deadline to participate in commencement, it's traditionally March 1st. That has historically been the deadline. Although based on the recent weather events, we are extending that, and it will be March 15th. So we are developing messaging that will be finalized likely today or tomorrow. And so we'll be sending that out with a final instruction for all students. But you can be assured, and it is confirmed, that the deadline has been extended from March 1st to March 15th for paying your balance to zero.
Thank you, Mrs. Powell. We have another question. Is it possible to advise students to get their COVID testing scheduled outside of their class times? Let's see, do the bands, cheerleaders, and teams that participate have a fixed schedule for the COVID testing? We want to make sure that they're not conflicting with their class schedules. Dean Snavely, do you want to take that?
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Jackson, and really great question. As you can imagine, this is a bit of a herding cat situation for us, and we're aligning several different things. One is the availability of our partner, Total Wellness, who administers the testing for us and handles the reporting to the state. We're also then working across, I think it's at least 6 or 7 different sports and band. We do, to answer the question as directly as possible, we've tried to build long time windows, always at least 3 hours, sometimes more. Today's window, for example, or today, Tuesday and Wednesday's window are 4 hours, for the very purpose that the team member who asked the question is getting at, which is we don't want class times being conflicted with this testing. It's also why we've predominantly built most of the testing into the afternoon hours, because that's where the least amount of classes are. We almost always have testing during the lunch hour, which is when the fewest amount of classes are held. So the coaches, AD Rogers, Professor Gordon, Dr. Peterson, have been working with those students to make sure that they sign up at times that don't conflict. Of course, that I too have seen students who've been trying to do both things. And as Dr. Jackson mentioned earlier, that's really against the protocols and guidance for remote learning. So I think it's well within the purview of a faculty member to encourage their students to do that outside of their class time, to even require it. And if you see, that happening all the time, then I would advise that you reach out to your dean and identify that is happening. And we'll work with AD Rogers to build bigger and longer schedules. It is hard to do given all of the considerations, but almost every time we have it, we have a pretty wide window, and the students should be able to find a time that doesn't conflict. Another challenge just mentioned for practical purposes is if there is a wait, that may be part of why the students get caught, because they think they can get through, but there might be a wait for testing or a wait for the results. So great question, but certainly if you're seeing that happen as a faculty or staff member, reach out to your dean and Dr. Jackson, and we can help facilitate a conversation about that.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a question in the Q&A about refunds. I'll just, let's see, Mrs. Powell, do you want to address that one?
Sure. So the EPG is not directly involved in the refund process. We are aware that there were some circumstances which led to the delay. So this would not be the appropriate forum for us to address that question. What we'll do instead is we will work with Student Employee Services to ensure that we have the best and most accurate information. And we'll ask that they work with the Office of Public Relations to develop some messaging so that we can get some messaging out to the university community. That way we're sharing the most accurate information instead of speculating. So thank you for that question.
Thanks for forwarding the question on to the appropriate office. Okay. I don't see any other questions. We had a couple that were a couple specific questions that were addressed in the chat. So thank you for that. So at this point, we'll pause and share one of my favorite segments of the week, reflecting on resilience. And Dean Busby will bring this week's story of resilience. Dean?
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. And so we're proud to highlight the Langston University football team and their return to play, of course. We continue to be so proud of our athletic department, our student athletes, our staff, AD Rogers and her team for continuing to follow the policies and procedures and protocols that have been put in place. And this weekend, our football team traveled to sunny Phoenix, Arizona to compete against Arizona Christian University. While our team was not victorious, they were very competitive. for at least 3/4 of the game. And we just kind of ran out of gas. I think we took about 75 student athletes and coaching staff. But our team was very competitive, very proud of the effort. The game was broadcasted on KRMP 92.1, where you could listen to the game live. Well, there was a live stream available, but you would have had to pay for it via the Arizona Christian University website. But nonetheless, our team competed very heavily and played very strongly. We're very proud of them. While they were not victorious, we're just proud that they were able to see the field of competition. Arizona Christian University actually played 4 games in the fall. Of course, Langston University decided not to participate in any fall sports. And of course, it was kind of weird to see a football game in February. But hey, if you had to play football, why not play it in sunny Arizona? And so our Lions football team will return to action this Saturday against Southwest Assemblies of God University here in Langston, on the Langston campus. And so we would ask that if you would like to attend the game or support the Lions, please make sure to follow them on all social media at Langston Sports, or to go to langstonsports.com to receive any information about tickets, the processes and protocols that they would have to be able to attend the game this weekend. And so we're very proud of our team, very proud of the staff. Thanks so much to AD Rogers and her team. And as always, we'll say, go Lions.
Thank you, Dean. And congratulations to our football team for getting back into action, and as well our coaching staff and our players and all supporters. So we've come to the end of our webinar, and I'd like to say thank you for joining us. Our next webinar will be next Monday, March 1st at 12:30. So please plan to join us. And until then, take care, Lions. Have a great week.